The medical bay of the exploration vessel Stellar Horizon was never quiet, but the sound echoing through it now was something else entirely. The shrill screams cut through steel walls and reinforced bulkheads, raising the hairs on the necks of every crew member within earshot. On the central examination table lay Ambassador Anna of the Valyrian Collective, her luminescent blue skin shimmering erratically as her body convulsed in agony. Crystalline strands woven through her hair flickered like broken circuitry, casting fractured light across the sterile room. Valyrians were renowned across the galaxy for their telepathic prowess and refined nervous systems. Yet those same gifts were now tearing her apart from the inside. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stood frozen beside the bioscanner, her gloved hands clenched as she stared at readings that made no sense. Neural activity spiked beyond survivable thresholds, yet there was no physical trauma, no toxin, no infection. Her entire nervous system is overloading, she said under her breath to Commander Stewart, who watched helplessly from the doorway. It's like her mind is being burned alive. Anna's screams dissolved into fractured phrases in her native tongue, words about silence, voids, and endless voices layered on top of one another. 3 hours earlier, the Stellar Horizon had docked at Junction Station Alpha, a diplomatic hub teeming with dozens of sentient species. Anna had been in the middle of negotiating a fragile peace treaty when she collapsed without warning. What began as mild disorientation had escalated into catastrophic neural failure within minutes. Every advanced medical protocol had failed. Alexander Chun heard the screams from the corridor outside the medical bay. As a junior engineering officer, he had no authorization to be there, especially during a medical emergency. Yet something pulled at him, a pressure in his chest he couldn't explain. He stopped at the observation window, watching Anna writhe as if each scream resonated inside his own bones. Alexander had always been sensitive to suffering, but this was different. This felt personal, urgent, unavoidable. A security officer ordered him to step back. Alexander nodded but didn't move. Inside, Anna's movements grew weaker, her screams thinning into desperate gasps. Dr. Tanaka prepared an emergency neural stabilizer, though her expression betrayed doubt. Without conscious thought, Alexander pushed past security and entered the medical bay. Alarms blared instantly. Commander Stewart turned sharply, ready to shout, but froze as Alexander stepped to Anna's side and gently placed his hand on her forehead. In that instant, the screaming stopped. Her body relaxed. The chaotic flickering of her crystalline hair settled into a steady glow. The impossible had begun, silence fell over the medical bay so completely it felt unreal. Where moments earlier there had been screams and alarms, now there was only the soft hum of life support systems. Dr. Tanaka stared at the bioscanner as the wild red warning indicators slid downward into stable green. "That's not possible," she whispered. Commander Stewart found his voice at last, though it came out barely audible. "What did you just do?" Alexander didn't answer. He couldn't. His hand remained gently pressed to Anna's forehead, warmth flowing from his palm in a way he had never felt before. He had no idea what he was doing, only that removing his hand felt wrong, like breaking a fragile connection holding something together. Anna's breathing evened out, and her eyes slowly focused, locking onto Alexander's face with startling clarity. "The silence," she said softly, her voice steady now. "You brought the silence." "I don't understand," Alexander replied, barely above a whisper. Anna swallowed, gathering strength. "Valyrians are telepathic. We hear thoughts, emotions, echoes of consciousness around us. Our minds filter it, normally. But Junction Station Alpha," she shuddered. "Thousands of minds. Different species. Different emotional frequencies. When I arrived, my filters collapsed. Every thought crashed into me at once. I was drowning." Dr. Tanaka stepped closer, scanning Anna again. "But why did this help?" Anna's gaze never left Alexander. "Humans are unique. To telepathic species, you are psychic nulls. Not empty, not dead, quiet. You exist as blank spaces in the mental spectrum. When you touched me, you created a refuge. A silent room in a screaming city. Understanding dawned across the room. Alexander wasn't healing her in the traditional sense. He was shielding her. His very presence dampened the psychic storm tearing her apart. He was a living anchor. How long do you need? Alexander asked, instinctively shifting into problem-solving mode. Minutes, Anna said. My neural pathways are rebuilding their filters. You gave me the space to breathe. Her crystalline hair pulsed with healthy light now, steady and calm. Commander Stewart exhaled slowly, or replacing disbelief. Mr. Chun, you may have just performed a form of first contact we didn't know existed. Alexander remained at Anna's side as her condition stabilized fully. He said nothing, did nothing extraordinary. He simply stayed. In a room filled with advanced alien technology and beings of immense power, it was the simplest human act, presence, that saved a life. 2 hours later, the medical bay felt different. The tension had drained away, replaced by quiet amazement. Anna sat upright now, supported by soft medical restraints, her skin glowing evenly, her breathing strong. Alexander still stood nearby, though his hand no longer needed to touch her. The silence he brought lingered. Valyrian physiology reports updated across the ship's network, triggering urgent interest from scientific and diplomatic teams. Humans had always been considered psychically unremarkable, primitive even, by telepathic civilizations. That assumption was now unraveling. Anna gestured for Alexander to sit. You didn't just save me, she said. You revealed something vital about your species. Alexander frowned slightly. I didn't do anything special. That's the point, Anna replied. Your minds evolved without psychic broadcast. In a galaxy saturated with thought, emotion, and mental interference, humans are silence made flesh. That makes you invaluable. Dr. Tanaka listened intently, already recording notes. You're saying humans could function as stabilizers in high-density psychic environments? Anna nodded. As anchors. As shields. As sanctuaries. The implications were staggering. Stations, diplomatic hubs, war councils, anywhere telepathic overload threatened lives, humans could prevent catastrophe simply by being present. Not through force. Not through technology. Through what they were. Commander Stewart formally logged the incident, his tone measured but reverent. This changes interspecies protocol, he said. Human crews may become essential to mixed species operations. Alexander shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't joined the fleet to become essential. He had joined to build, to fix systems quietly in the background. Now, without meaning to, he had changed galactic understanding. When Anna was cleared for release, she took Alexander's hands in the traditional Valyrian gesture of profound gratitude. In a universe that screams, she said softly, you are the pause that allows us to survive. Alexander smiled faintly. Sometimes the best thing we can do is just be there. As Anna left the medical bay under escort, word of what had happened spread rapidly. Not of a human miracle, but of a human truth. That silence could be stronger than noise. That absence could be protection. That humanity's perceived weakness was, in fact, a rare and powerful gift. The Stellar Horizon departed Junction Station Alpha with updated protocols and a deeper understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. What had begun as a medical emergency had become a philosophical reckoning. Telepathic species had long believed power meant amplification, stronger signals, broader reach, louder presence. Humans challenged that belief simply by existing. Reports of the incident circulated through the Galactic Council. Committees debated classifications, doctrines, and long-standing assumptions. Humans were no longer merely physical contributors. They were psychological infrastructure. Silent stabilizers in an overcrowded mental universe. Alexander returned to his engineering duties, uncomfortable with attention but unable to escape the shift around him. Crew members looked at him differently now, not with awe, but with quiet respect. He hadn't conquered anything. He hadn't proven dominance. He had offered comfort. Anna sent a formal message before departing the sector. "Your species," she wrote, "will change the way we survive together. Not by shouting louder, but by reminding us what quiet feels like." In time, humans were integrated deliberately into mixed-species crews. Not as soldiers or leaders, but as balance. Where telepaths once burned themselves out in crowded minds, humans softened the mental edges. Conflict zones stabilized faster. Diplomatic talks lasted longer. Fewer minds broke. The galaxy learned a lesson it had never considered. That evolution did not always favor expansion. Sometimes, it favored restraint. Sometimes, survival depended not on power, but on space. And so the story of the dying alien who touched a human became something more than legend. It became instruction. In a cosmos filled with endless voices, humanity was the silence that made understanding possible. Alexander Chun never sought recognition. But in the vast noise of the universe, his quiet act echoed farther than any scream.